Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Trinidad and Tobago. This is the second leg of his five-nation tour. He was in Ghana earlier. This is his first official visit to the Caribbean nation as Prime Minister and first bilateral prime ministerial level visit from India since the year 1999. Prime Minister Modi was warmly received at the Piarco International Airport in Port Spain with a ceremonial welcome and a guard of honor. Upon arrival, he was greeted by Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Biseswar, who wore Indian attire for the occasion, along with her entire cabinet comprising 38 ministers and 4 MPs, all present at the airport to welcome him. Prime Minister Modi gifted holy water of Sangam and Saryu River from the Mahakumbh and a replica of Ram Mandir to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Modi also expressed his joy after witnessing a traditional Bhojpuri Chautal performance in Port of Spain. Calling it a priceless cultural connection, he highlighted the deep-rooted ties between the two nations, particularly with eastern UP and Bihar. Prime Minister Modi, during his visit to Trinidad and Tobago, called Prime Minister Kamala Bihar ki beti. Speaking to the Indian community, he shared that the country's Prime Minister's ancestors were from Buxar in Bihar and she has even visited the place. He also has been awarded the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean nation's highest civilian honor. The recognition was announced by the Prime Minister herself, and the award was presented to Prime Minister Modi for his influential global leadership and humanitarian contribution during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is indeed the 25th international honor bestowed upon Prime Minister Modi by a country. Prime Minister's next visit would be to Buenos Aires in Argentina, which marks a significant diplomatic engagement between the two countries, the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the South American nation since Indira Gandhi's visit in 1968. The trip comes at a time when both countries are seeking to deepen cooperation in energy, critical minerals, defense and trade, while also reaffirming a shared position against terrorism. It also precedes the BRICS summit in Brazil, positioning Argentina as an important stop in India's broader outreach to Latin America and the global south. Argentina's vast reserves of lithium, copper and shale gas have emerged as a key area of interest for India. Lithium in particular is essential to India's clean energy ambitions, used in batteries for electric vehicles and grid storage, and Argentina is part of the lithium triangle along with Bolivia and Chile. Indian state-backed firm Cargill has already secured rights for lithium exploration in Argentina's Catamarca province, and further announcements are expected too. Beyond minerals, Argentina's growing capability in LNG and its untapped shale energy resources, second largest shale gas reserves in the world, are now drawing attention in New Delhi as well. With traditional suppliers in the Gulf facing volatility, the Modi government is looking to diversify its energy sources, and Argentine LNG is part of that equation. Now, the visit is also expected to expand discussions on defense collaboration. While still at an early stage, Argentina has shown interest in Indian-built defense systems, including the Tejas light combat aircraft. Talks may cover joint training, co-production and technology transfer. During his time in Buenos Aires, Prime Minister Modi is expected to pay tribute at the statue of General Jose de San Martin, Argentina's independence hero, and participate in ceremonial and delegation-level talks.
Your parliament also has some members whose forefathers were from the Indian state of Bihar, which is famous for centers like Vaishali. Friends, there is a natural warmth in the connection between our two countries. I must say, Indians are among the most passionate fans of the West Indies cricket team. We cheer for them with all our heart, except when they are playing against India. The relationship between our two countries is based on the foundation of centuries-old bonds. 180 years ago, the first Indians arrived on this land after a long and hard journey. Oceans away, the Indian beats blended beautifully with the Caribbean rhythm.
Earlier today, as mentioned, we had the distinct honor of conferring our country's highest national award, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And Prime Minister Modi is recognized internationally as one of the world's most respected, most admired visionary leaders who has transformed and redefined and repositioned his own country as a prominent and dominant global power. And indeed, we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and the government of Trinidad and Tobago, express our heartfelt gratitude for India's very compassionate humanitarian gift of vaccines and medical supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Those are visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi receiving a ceremonial welcome guard of honor at Port of Spain when he arrived in Trinidad and Tobago. Look at the massive Indian community presence in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm being joined by my colleague Pranay Upadhyay, who's been following the visit very closely. Pranay, massive diplomatic outreach by the Indian Premier and lots of medals and honors. But he is also headed to a very important country just after this, Argentina.
You're absolutely right, Geeta. This is a very important visit and such a heartwarming visuals which we are getting from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. This is a small country in Caribbean, but definitely a very special bond which India shares with Trinidad and Tobago because this relationship goes back to 180 year, when the contractual labor were taken to Trinidad and Tobago by the British colonizers, and now as an independent country, they share that special bond with India, and that cultural connect is quite visible. In this Caribbean area, we share the cultural connect as well as the cricketing ties. You heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioning about Brian Lara. He fondly remembered his first visit to Trinidad and Tobago, like around 25 years ago, when he was not even a chief minister, of Gujarat. He visited as the organizer of, organizational person of BJP and RSS, and there he found that what kind of a cultural connect Trinidad and Tobago has with India. So this clearly shows that he is on a mission, he is on a trip, he is undertaking to revive those old bonds, and across the globe. If you see the trajectory of his foreign visits, he has visited, be it Guyana or be it Papua New Guinea, be it Mauritius, be it Fiji, be it Suriname. These are the countries where we have special bond with the Indian diaspora, the Kartal or the Ramayan part. These are the things which you see in Trinidad and Tobago, and the visuals
Right.
of him being conferred the highest honor of Trinidad and Tobago, and in fact the first recipient of the highest order, highest civilian award of the Trinidad and Tobago clearly shows that what kind of special relationship Trinidad and Tobago has with India, and how much they revere, how much they how much they respect the visit of Indian Prime Minister to Trinidad and Tobago. And definitely not only about the cultural ties, Geeta, definitely it has a lot to do with the development story of Trinidad and Tobago. India want to contribute there, and as you and I were discussing, even our UPI works there in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. Also, Pranay, the biggest story over here is not just the cultural connect. Look at the big push over here. It's not even the Global South outreach. Pranay, it's about Make in India, and Make in India when it comes to defense. Major defense push in Argentina for Make in India, indigenous weapon systems and jets.
You're right, Geeta. Not only defense deal, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Argentina is also relevant and important in terms of securing the critical minerals. Like Argentina is a big producer of lithium, and in northern part of Argentina, some of the Indian companies have secured the mining contracts, and that how lithium and cobalt or nickel has become important as far as the modern technologies are concerned. These rare earth minerals are the new age, two new age things which are important and which are, prime on agenda for even President Donald Trump or for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So global leaders are looking for these rare earth minerals and securing deals for the rare earth minerals. And in that context, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the next stop of him would be in Argentina. And while having a high-level discussion with the leadership of Argentina, he would not only be talking about the rare earth mineral contracts, the defense deal you rightly mentioned about the Argentina has expressed interest in some of our missile system, including the Akash missile system and some of the Indian manufactured defense deals.
Right.
So that is also an important thing. And India is the fifth or sixth largest, investor in the Argentinian economy,
Right.
and that's why it is very important. Even the agriculture ties with Argentina are important with India.
That's correct. Right, Pranay, the fact that there are 5 countries he's visiting, but Argentina is the only one that is not honoring him with an award. But there is going to be important defense cooperation between the two countries. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep tracking the story, and we'll keep dipping into you on what's happening in this 5-nation tour. Now, the big, beautiful bill will see the light of day as US President Donald Trump signs it into a law on America's Independence Day. The 900-page bill extends tax cuts, slashes welfare funds, and will raise fiscal deficit over the coming years. That Trump managed to push through the bill despite divide within the Republicans means he is in his most powerful phase as a president. Here is a full report.
On this vote, the yeas are 218, the nays are 214. The motion is adopted.
Press on for the American way of life. Press on for democracy. We're going to press on.
Marathon debate sessions, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' record-breaking decision to filibuster and divide among Republicans, all this together could not thwart Donald Trump's mega one big beautiful bill to come into force. In a matter of hours, the US president will sign the bill into a law on 4th of July, the American Independence Day.
There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the one big, beautiful bill to make America great again.
The yeas are 50. The nays are 50.
After being narrowly approved by the Senate in a 50-50 vote that requires Vice President J.D. Vance to break a tie, the bill was approved by the House of Representatives in a 218 to 214 vote.
In every aspect of our country, we're doing well, despite the fact that we inherited millions of people that shouldn't have been here. And I think we have crime stats that are coming out that are showing the lowest numbers we've had in many years. And that also despite the fact that a lot of people are here that shouldn't have been let into our country. So they're going to be very proud tomorrow. So we're signing at about 5 o'clock. And at about 5 o'clock, we're going to have B-2s and F-22s and F-35s flying right over the White House. And the Speaker and I and John Thune, we're all there together with I think most Republican senators and congressmen and women. And it's going to be a great day. So we'll be signing with those beautiful planes flying right over our heads.
The bill is an extension of Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. With this bill becoming a law, spending on border security, defense and energy production will increase. Due to all this, there will be significant cuts to healthcare and nutrition programs like Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the bill will add $3.4 trillion to federal deficits over the next 10 years, leaving millions without health insurance. Certain provisions have been removed from the bill, like the one which would have ordered the sale of public lands and another which would have paused state regulations on AI. President Trump is going to sign the bill into a law at a ceremony on July 4th. He has announced the signing ceremony on his Truth Social handle. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Tibetan spiritual leader, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, will celebrate his 90th birthday on the 6th of July. The Dalai Lama has laid out his succession plan and entrusted his non-profit institution, Garden for Drong Trust, with the sole authority to identify his reincarnation. But if China appoints and recognizes another Dalai Lama, which they will, then India will be in a tight spot. I spoke with the head of the Tibetan government in exile, Sekyong Penpa Sering, and this is what he had to say. Listen in.
Chinese government, of course, they have been working on this for the last more than 2 decades, and they have even passed a law called Order Number 5 way back in 2007, which talks about the Chinese government, the power to recognize the reincarnated lamas, or what they call as living Buddhas. And I think they have made their own plans, and they keep saying that, one, they will look for His Holiness reincarnation within Tibet or within China and not outside. So that is why this is one reason. And another reason is whenever there are talks about His Holiness wishing to visit China or Tibet, or China inviting His Holiness to come to Tibet or China, they always put this precondition that His Holiness should stay back for good, for which His Holiness has always said that if I get the opportunity to visit, I will visit, but I'll not live there because there's no freedom there. And when Chinese government says that, then His Holiness' response is that I will be born in a free world if Tibet is not free by that time. Right? And the second thing the Chinese government talks about is using the golden urn, which was introduced in 1793 by the Qing dynasty, when they had little influence over Tibet. And following that, they had their own 100 years of humiliation, as they say. So when they cannot look after Tibet themselves, then there's no question about ruling Tibet.
Joining me from Washington, D.C. is Bill Drexel. He's a strategic affairs expert with the Hudson Institute. Bill, thank you so much for doing this. Let's begin broad-basing the entire issue. 2 Dalai Lamas. One will be appointed by his trust in Dharamshala, but the other certainly by China as well. In such a scenario, what's your reading on how the world will react to these appointments, and who will they be looking at or looking to as the next spiritual head?
Yeah, so China, it's kind of an amazing phenomenon. It's formally a atheist regime. If you're a party member and you become religious, you'll face party discipline. It's not allowed. And yet the CCP, the communist, the ruling party, has formally regulated Buddhist reincarnation in the country, which is, a kind of a crazy thing to do if you're an atheistic regime. It just goes to show that they care a lot about this issue. They understand that for their Tibetan minority, this is a really key transformative issue. They see it as an internal matter that they would like to see others not get meddled into. And a bit similar to Xi Jinping, where people start to speculate about what's happened to him if he's not been seen in public for a while, they also reassert their kind of prerogative to name the next Dalai Lama or to regulate reincarnation whenever the current Dalai Lama is seen as sick or missing or what have you. So this has been a very long-standing issue that they care a lot about. I think we can go ahead. Well, I think we can expect that if we see, as seems to be the most likely outcome right now, that the Tibetans in exile identify a new Dalai Lama after this Dalai Lama passes, and Beijing appoints a different one, or at least does not recognize the one that is recognized by the Tibetans in exile. I think we're going to see a major diplomatic crisis. The Chinese Communist Party will exert pressure on all relevant parties, which would include certainly India, also likely the United States, to try to get its way. And it'll likely be messy.
Right. You mentioned diplomatic crisis. So a diplomatic crisis, indeed, it is going to be. India will be in a precarious position, Bill, of whether to recognize the Dalai Lama appointed by his office in Dharamshala or not, because recognition would mean further heightened tensions in an already fraught India-China ties.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the flashpoints with China, and there's no telling exactly when it will blow up, but it is a tinderbox that India will have to prepare for. India has deep civilizational ties with Tibet. India is the birthplace of Buddhism, which is kind of at the heart of this issue. And India has been a kind of proponent of the rights of Tibetan Buddhism, Buddhists, and of kind of Tibetan Buddhism more generally. That's kind of internationally, broadly speaking, most countries realize that that is a principled stand that India has taken in favor of a subjugated people, and that's appreciated. It equates to a certain amount of soft power, perhaps, but broadly speaking, China's a very powerful country. Its economy is 5 times the size of India's, and it will not take this lightly if India backs the Tibetans in exile on this question. I think if I were the Indian government, I'd really try to anticipate what are the most likely actions that the CCP would take, and how can we mitigate them.
Right, Bill, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. We'll maybe keep coming back to you as and when we see developments happening in China. Now, Russia has accepted the credentials of a new ambassador of Afghanistan as part of an ongoing drive to build friendly relations with the country's Taliban authorities, which seized power as United States troops withdrew from the country 4 years ago.
Russia becomes the first country to formally recognize Afghanistan's Taliban government. Taliban had taken over the reins of Afghanistan in 2021 after US withdrew its troops from the country. Russia was one of the few countries that did not close down its embassy in Afghanistan after the withdrawal in 2021. The announcement came after a meeting between Afghanistan's foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi and Russia's ambassador to Afghanistan in Kabul.
Including the Russian Federation, a number of countries accepted our ambassadors. Now that the process of recognition has begun, and Russia was the first to take the step, we hope this process will continue in the same manner. With this development, our relation with Russia will grow even stronger.
Moscow was also the first to sign an international economic deal with the Taliban in 2022. The Taliban was also removed from Russia's list of terrorist organizations in April that same year after Taliban representatives had visited Moscow for talks in 2018. The two countries have had a complex history. Erstwhile Soviet Union or the USSR invaded Afghanistan in 1979 and fought a long 9-year war. Civil war raged after USSR's withdrawal and Taliban took over the country in 1996. To narrow down the influence of the Soviet Union, the US supported Afghan rebels known as the Mujahideen against the Soviet-backed Afghan government during the Soviet-Afghan War. The Soviets withdrew its troops in February 1989 and lost almost 15,000 personnel during the war. No other country has formally recognized the Taliban government so far. However, China, the United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan and Pakistan have all designated ambassadors to Kabul. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
In a rather disappointment to none other than the US president, Russia and Ukraine are at it again. Missile strikes and attacks between Russia and Kyiv have begun. Russia's attack injured 23 people and caused damage across numerous areas of the city. Russia launched 550 drones and missiles, most of which were Shahid drones. 11 of them were missiles. Now, Kyiv could hear the drones along with explosions and heavy gunfire as Ukrainian forces were trying to shoot down the missiles and drones. And this came at a time when Trump spoke with the Ukrainian president. Listen in what President Trump had to say.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed with the conversation I had today with President Putin, because I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there. And I'm very disappointed. Well, it's not, I'm just saying, I don't think he's looking to stop. And that's too bad.
Безусловно, мы очень внимательно относимся ко всем заявлениям.
Undoubtedly, we pay close attention to all of the President Trump's statements. During the call, President Putin repeated that we are interested in achieving our goals in special military operation, and we'd rather do it by political and diplomatic means. But for as long as it does not seem possible, we will continue our special military operation.
Но пока это не представляется возможным.
The attacks have begun even as US President Donald Trump is trying to broker a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. One of his first promises to have done it within 24 hours or at least the first 100 days when he became president. We'll see what happens next after the conversations between Putin and Trump and Zelensky and Trump. With that, it's time to say goodbye from me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and take care.